again. There's no job. They're feeling too. There's no job for them.
We analyze the undercurrents, expose the intrigues, and break down the narratives that define our democracy. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki delivering razor-sharp analysis, and Ibuka Franklin and Chisom on the question wheel, driving the conversation. We bring you the most compelling discussions on governance, policies, and power plays. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay ahead. The Polity, every weekdays at 9:15 a.m. Exclusive on Udala 104.7 FM Onitsha.
Friday morning it is, last Friday of the month of January, and of course the last edition of the Polity for the month of January, right here on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Good morning to you and welcome. I am Chisom Chinedu. Yesterday, the governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, had a meeting with market leaders in the state, and he promised market leaders, and by extension all traders in Anambra State, maximum security if they obey and start going about their different activities on Mondays. Now, if you have not been in the know or you're just catching up with happenings in Anambra State in particular, the Anambra State governor last week banned the sit-at-home. This is something that has been going off and on. It gets banned and then people keep disobeying. But last Monday, he took a drastic measure. He came down to Main Market to see things himself and met the place under lock and key. And he said, Main Market would not operate for the rest of the week. And yesterday, when I was going home, I saw some apprentices, the ones we normally call Omo Boy, mounting different posts at different parts of the street, playing football. And I asked one of them, are you enjoying your midterm break? The boy couldn't contain the laughter. But of course, some of them are enjoying themselves. But this is the point where Anambrarians sit down and have a critical conversation on what the way forward is going to be. Are we going to let our fate be decided by non-state actors? The big question is again how the government intends to show state might by making sure that these non-state actors do not decide how we go about things in Anambra State. Good morning to you once again. Franklin Ebuka is here. Good morning, Franklin.
Good morning, Chisoma. Good morning to Nigerians. And of course, it's a good day for us to wrap up the week with the developments in the polity. And like you rightly said, that Anambra has been in the news. In fact, since Monday, it's been back to back. And every day we have to have different update on the very first development. And today, Governor of Anambra is going to meet with leaders of Main Market. And we gather that there are two options that he's going to provide before them. Maybe when we get into conversation, we'll talk about that. But the one they had yesterday, there are some development from there. One is that he said he's going to ensure that security is enhanced at strategic positions in different markets on Mondays. And he's going to work together with market leaders to see how they can get to make things work. And he also talked about some other things that, in the course of this very conversation, of course, we're going to raise them. But the thing is this, yesterday, I was speaking with a friend who works in a bank, and their branch is in Ekulobia, and he told me that their bank had gotten communication from their headquarters in Abuja, so in Lagos, asking them that they should begin operation on Mondays from next week. So that tells you that nobody is being spared. The Commissioner for Education in Anambra State, that was yesterday, she also issued a statement saying that they had already given out a circular that schools should begin to open on Mondays, especially schools in Onitsha, because those in Oka, they're already open. So that tells you that nobody is being spread in this. This effort to restart this economy, nobody is being spread, and it's like it's like a wholesome thing. Though the attention now seems to be on the market because of the kind of attention it has generated, being that it's a very big market, and knowing the kind of sentiments that are there. So let's see how everybody is going to come together for the purpose of the generator of the interest of the people to make to make this very combustible topic come out in a way that at the end of the day,
Absolutely. Dr. Tony Olisambeke is here as well. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Chisom Chinede. Good morning, the good people of Nigeria. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, the good people of Anambra State. Good morning, Indonesia. Good morning, Indosimo. Good morning, the Market, and everyone under the reach of our voice. It's a very, very beautiful morning here. We are back in our sanctuary, and most times I thank God that most things we have said here happen the way we do say them. Most times it tells you that we see beyond the optics, we see beyond humans. Things happen the way we have been saying that they should or they would, based on what we have observed, that they would or they would turn out to be. That tells you the need for you to take hold of this very program. It's not about emotion, it's not about sentiment, it's not about bias, it's not about where you belong or where I belong. Most times we predict these things not because we want them to happen that way, but because we feel that the trajectory, the way it is going, it will end up this way, and for us to take necessary precautions, take necessary cautions on not being involved or not being caught up on our ways. So you're welcome, and just like we have always said, I love my state more than any other person. I don't know about you, and I want Anambra to progress. I want the good of Anambra State, and I have said many times that I will never, as a person, subject myself to the rule of criminals, rule of the mob, what we call mobocracy. They decide and dictate for us how we're gonna do this, how we're gonna do this, how we're gonna. No. I cannot subject myself to that. I would never subject myself to that, because in doing so, it means that many years in university, learning, acquiring, all these things are waste. So I will not subject myself. I will tell you the truth, no matter how it looks like, no matter how it appears, no matter how you take it, Anambra must succeed. And our brother Nnamdi Kanu eventually would also be released. Yes, because while we do this, we also ensuring, working, doing a lot of things to ensure that he is released at one point or the other. He will be released. But the way we are going about it is capital no. Capital no.
All right,
That's not the way we are going to go about it. I think the government has taken the right step, and I'm totally, fully in support of the steps government has taken.
All right, then, let's also remind you that we are live on Facebook. Our handle is Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Go ahead, like the posts, share, and of course, follow the page. We have the Vanguard newspaper on our desk, The Punch, The Nation, and The Guardian. We are starting with the front page of the Vanguard. The banner headline here is Petrol to cost more as crude oil price rises further. That's on page 5. The riders here, Bonnie Light hit $70.30. Okay, U.S. crude inventories fall as tension in Middle East heightens. Diesel prices go up, petrol remains unchanged. Expect pressure on businesses, households. That's from experts. And above the nameplate, Nigeria's telecoms industry attracted over $1 billion in 2025. The NCC has that to say on page 19. Northern Can Christian leaders reject call for removal of INEC chair on page 9. Reps passed 2026 58.18 trillion naira budget for second reading on page 9. Electoral Act Senate set subcommittee to galvanize the opinion of senators on page 9. Over 160 members held by kidnappers in Kaduna, Kogi, Ekwa on page 6. The writer here as church condemns Kajuru attack worsening insecurity. Big story there would do justice to that in the middle of the conversation. Clash by Wizkid, Shehu Kuti over Fela's legacy refuses to fade on page 14. Well, you'd have to catch up on this development on the cherry box by 12:25. But if you've been following the development, there's been this constant argument over Wizkid being as good as Fela is. Of course, people like Fela immortalized, so I cannot use the was verb for him. So yes, and Fela's son is not having any of that, talking about Shehu Kuti. But some other persons feel that Wizkid has paid his dues, and well, he's right to say that he's probably following the footstep or keeping the legacies of Fela alive. And some persons are also saying Shehu should do better by keeping his own father's legacies alive. On the sports column of the Vanguard newspaper, Afghan final saga, Cavs hammer falls and Senegal miracle. Pick up a copy of the Vanguard to see more.
Talking about this very guy, Shehu Kuti and the Wizkid, because when this very spat started, I was asking myself, this one way for last thing, trouble with the sleep.
Yeah, go
because Wizkid was on its own, and the Shehu Kuti began this whole thing.
Actually, Wizkid's fans started it.
No, that's what I'm saying. The thing is, as somebody who is a personality in the caliber of Shehu Kuti, you know that these very fans, they can be rabid sometimes, and you should not allow yourself to be drawn into unnecessary kind of bad blood, knowing that people have a way of concussing, and he allowed himself to be used. Kept on dragging Wizkid until he responded, and the rest is history. Well, let them enjoy the salvo. Of course, we in the media, we help them to amplify it. All right, so let's look at the headlines we have on Get a Newspaper. This headline says, publish or perish, how varsities mass produce research without solution to societal ills. That's the big story on pages 4 and 5 of the Get a Newspaper. Cargo agent kick as fan increases tariff by 257%. The story is on page 3 of the Get a Newspaper. Senate probes winning Abuja Kaduna railway operations is on page 30. Fuel price hike imminent as oil prices exceed budget benchmark. The story is on page 3. It's quite antithetical that each time the price of crude oil in the international market goes up, of course, the price of petrol goes up in Nigeria. That tells you how we depend on what happens in the international market in our own area. Then, this very headline says, Amotekun denies accidental discharge at our training ground. The story is on page 29. NCC removes 450 illegal signal boosters, reassigns spectrum. It's on page 30. Or rather, that's page 20 of Get a Newspaper. IPOB force Soludo's threat to revoke Onitsha market's ownership rights. The story is on page 29. Wike commissions 12 ambulances as FCTA workers resume strike. The story is on page 30. APC weighs leadership shake-up as Ndume warns of northern discontent. It's on page 6. Zulum okays direct payment of monthly allocation to Brunei local government areas. The story is on page 30. A 58.4 trillion naira budget scales through second reading without debate. The story is on page 6, and that summarizes the headlines we have on the front page of The Guardian.
All right, then on the front page of the Punch newspaper, beside the nameplate of the paper, $70 million World Bank loan. FG may raise taxes on alcohol, cigarettes on page 28. 2027, Oshomole Tambawal on Senate's High Stakes Electoral Act Review Panel on page 2. Panel headline here of G's 9 trillion naira domestic loan surge drains lifeline from businesses on page 21. The writer to that story, private sector lending falls as FG's domestic borrowing jumps 152%. Economists say stricter loan rules choking off business funding. APC engaging Wike to resolve Rivers crisis, says Bashiru on page 29. Meter costs spark discourse of G showdown on tariffs on page 27. On the foreign scene now, plane crash kills Colombian lawmaker. 14 others on page 2. That's our development there.
Yes, quite a sad one. And then we move over to the Nation newspaper to see the headlines. Castina State CJ, no bandits released in exchange for peace. A request undergoing due process. You see this story on the front page of the Nation. Another headline says Turkey trip will boost insurgency battle. And then above the nameplate, Zulum okays direct payment of local government allocations. The stories on page 3. Senate probes deplorable snail speed train services. The stories on page 3. First Lady institutes 50 million endowment fund at task fund. The stories on page 4. Now Fund extends 2025-26 loan application deadline to February 27. The stories on page 4. I hope those students who school here in the Southeast, they are taking note of this, and of course avail themselves of what opportunity to get loan for higher education. Then this one says by-election to hold in Kano Rivers, February 21st. FCTA area council polls same day. It's on page 4. Senate takes steps to fast-track Electoral Act 2022 amendment. Electronic transfer of result, Beavers. Electronic transfer of result, Beavers use may be legalized. That's the right that follows that very story. This one says police get new DIG, AIGs as PSC elevates 26, 119 inspectors to ASPs. The story is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And with that, we conclude the headlines review.
And now we go to the conversation proper, starting off with reports on insecurity. On the Vanguard newspaper, the headline is over 160 church members held by kidnappers in Kaduna and Kogi. And of course, we understand that this is according to the Evangelical Church Winning All, ECWA. These members are currently in captivity across Kaduna and Kogi State, with their families facing crippling ransom demands. And the disclosure came as the church raised alarm over Nigeria's worsening security situation following the recent abduction of worshippers in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State. Speaking, Reverend Job Begat, the church president, or the ECWA president, said that about 100 members from the Kwasam District Church Council were taken. 30 were taken from the Saminaka District Church Council in Kaduna, and another 30 were taken from Kaba District Church Council in Kogi State. All of them are still being held by kidnappers. And according to reports, they are demanding exorbitant, what I call it now, fees in exchange for these people's release. And not to also forget that the conversation about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, in terms of the word used was genocide against Christians. Of course, genocide could explicitly mean death. But with things like this happening, 160 people kidnapped and still being held in captivity, and the assailants still asking for ransom, I think we're not far from accepting that Christians are under some sort of attack in different parts of Nigeria, especially up north. But then, sometime last week, we also spoke with Bishop Cook, and he said there's no Christian genocide in Nigeria. According to him, it's some sort of non-vehicle genocide, and a lot of conversation have come up from this, a lot of arguments have come up from this. And because of the conversation, we'd get to play an audio a part of the conversation we had with him, and of course, we also take a look at what the present situation is and the way out. So while we are making our way to this audio to access it, Tony, I'm still at a loss why churches are a target for these elements, especially where they all ask for ransoms. They go to churches and take people, they ask for ransoms. They go to certain communities and take people, they ask for ransom. Is that possibly the reason why there is this impression by some people, including Bishop Matthew Kuka, that there is no Christian genocide going on in Nigeria?
We wouldn't just accept the fact that they asked for ransom to conclude that there is no Christian genocide, because the ransom being asked is just for them to purchase more weapons and possibly come more heavier. We should understand that sometimes these ransoms are paid for them to acquire necessary ammunitions so that they can wipe out as much as they want. It's just a transition, so it will not be any indication for some who may think otherwise that it is just kidnapping for ransom and no more, no legs. It is kidnapping to annihilate. The ransom side of it is to equip themselves. They want to equip themselves more.
And they let the same people go.
And that's just that, because they will still come back again. If you look at what is going on now, because the very church we are talking about, I think ECWA, we are told by their leadership, President Reverend Job Bagat, that about 60 or 160 members are heard across states. He said that about 100 from Kwasam District, Kaduna, and also 30 from Saminaka District, Kaduna, and about 30 from Kaba District, Kogi, and even went on to say that even before the Kajuru event, these people had been held. So the Kajuru event in Kaduna State was more like an eye-opener to so many people who have not been following how they have been persecuted. When Christians are denied of worshipping their God, what is persecution? Because we understand during the early Christian days, they suffered persecution. They were asked not to worship. Many of them were killed, they were martyred, they were abducted, and they were also incarcerated. They were imprisoned.
Persecution here also encompasses genocide.
Everything. So that is what we call Christian persecution, when you do not allow them to function freely in a democratic environment. And one may say that the activities of these people are criminal, and it does not attach the word or the connotation of persecution, genocide, and what have you. You ask yourself a broader question: why Christians? So you want to tell me that if you come to that village, if you come to that very district, are there no community dwellers? Are there no other people, farmers, that could have been taken? But if you go on to ask this, they will tell you at times farmers are taken from their farmland. So these people lay hands on anything they can see, on anybody readily available. But we have seen a reputation of Christians. We've not heard that some people were abducted from their mosque. You hear that once in a while. Possibly the imam or the sheikh or the afar may not be against, or may be against the oppressions, so they come for him.
We've had such reports, but not in the kind of frequency we have that.
That's what I'm saying. If any afar or sheikh comes out to preach against their oppression, they may come for him.
So
that does not
mean target because of
Christians are targeted because they're Christians.
Because
and
of
then,
their religion.
Yes, and then some Muslims are targeted because they preach against their oppression. There are some Muslims, there are some Afars, there are some Sheikh that do not accept what they're doing. So they come out and preach and tell the people to also abhor these tendencies. But if you do that, they'll come for you. So when they come for people like that, you don't mistaken it to be that they are also against Muslims. So they are against those that are against them in their own circle, but generally against Christians. But the truth remains that we must do more, not the way we are doing or the way we are going about it. And so far, we've not seen the whereabouts of these people because they were marched
It's been 12
into the
days.
bush.
It's been 12 days.
So
sir.
I want to ask the Nigerian government, the authorities, does it mean that we can use searchlights? We cannot use any digital device to locate the whereabouts of these people because they were not taken to Cameroon, they were not taken to Benin Republic, they were not taken to Congo. They are still in Nigeria. They are still close by. They were marched into the bushes. So does it mean that we cannot? So what does it mean that all these money funds to be appropriating for defense? Hasn't it come to the time that we can be able to use different imaging systems, satellite imaging system, to pinpoint where these bandits are? Can't we do that? So it is something we must solve. We must start using geolocation, science, geolocation technologies, using anything possible to locate these people, to pinpoint the exact place they are. We want here because what we've been seeing so far is giving them their demands and they will release these people. And we announce that these abducted victims, they are all back. They have all been rescued. Nobody cares to ask how were they rescued, what was given in exchange, because anything given to them in exchange is more like emboldening them. You are just giving them momentum more. That's what it's like. But if we start doing what we should do, we will be able to save for the future. We are not saving for the future because what we are doing is to enable what these people are doing. Ransom given to them is to enable them more. But if we try to deploy technology, that is where our money for defense, our money for security should be heading to, because we have not seen that coming out. Each time there are issues of kidnapping, we keep asking where are they. We have to use the phone of one of the victims to start to use. So there are many ways. There was a day we were here and I enumerated many ways this can be done. If we don't have the technologies, we can go for these technologies, bring them back here in the country and use it to fight these criminals.
All right, then, let's go listen to what Bishop Kuka had to say, and we take up the conversation further from there.
Some Nigerians think that you have not been as vocal as the Bishop Kuka they knew under the administration of late President Muhammad Buhari. They say that those things that happened under the administration of Buhari that made you speak out are still happening in the present administration of President Bola Tinubu, and you haven't spoken out. To some set of people, you have not been vocal because you are a beneficiary of the government. According to them, your appointment as the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council for the new Federal University of Applied Sciences, Kacha, Kaduna State, might have neutralized you. How do you respond to people that share these thoughts? Why have you not been vocal as you are known for? Are your hands tied by the appointment you have?
Well, thank you very much. I ordinarily could tell you that I will not answer the question because I'm not answerable to anybody. I'm answerable to God and my conscience. I'm over 70 years old. I'm a bishop of the Catholic Church. I have not done anything that I think I should feel unhappy with myself about. I'm my own worst critic. I think it will be tragic, to say that things are still basically the same. And you need to understand the context of, unknown to very many people. Buhari and I had a relationship. We weren't fighting. But Buhari himself knew. He was somebody I'd known for a very long period of time. But he knew. I mean, I had maybe about 5-6 meetings with President Buhari. He understood my frustration. But let me tell you, principally, one of the areas that I felt unhappy about was the whole question of Buhari's deliberate effort to divide, to create very divisive policies. His policies of exclusion, which ensured that the entire security apparatus of Nigeria was in the hands of only northern Muslims. The structure that the President Buhari erected was unacceptable to me. I'm a big scholar of managing diversity. Now, I don't know, people say you are not speaking out the way. I have never called the newspaper and asked them to come and talk to me. I've never called a media house and asked them to come and talk to me. So if people expect me to walk to a radio station so I can talk so that they will hear, or that if I'm going to give a talk, if I'm going to speak on the media, I should go on television and announce that I'm going to speak, I will do no such thing. But I don't measure the relevance of what I'm saying by who is listening and who is not listening. So as to my relationship with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, please let us also not forget. Is that we have very short memories, selective memories at that. One of the things that President Tinubu has done that is different from what President Buhari did. It's not about the infrastructure; is a different thing altogether. But the very fact that President Tinubu will, for example, change the template of power in a way and manner that is sufficiently inclusive. It's not about General Musa being from Southern Kaduna, but that at least that he would take the trouble of making a Christian a chief of defense staff, for example, and that Christians now found themselves in different positions, and they were excluded not because of their lack of qualification, but under Buhari, and I said it publicly, it was more important to be a northern Muslim than to be a citizen of Nigeria. Now, if a man makes this kind of a quantum leap, it will be foolish not to acknowledge it, given where I've come from. The second thing is that people talk about pro-chancellor. I don't know, we live in a country where everybody has a price. And Nigerians have come to believe that if you do this, it must be because somebody is paying you. Okay, so let me say that it took President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for me to have served in the Vatican under 3 popes. Okay, from Pope John Paul II of blessed memory to Pope Benedict to Pope Francis and to Pope Leo. That somehow something happened before I was given those appointments, and that somehow Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President Tinubu, was responsible for my being a chancellor of the American University, the vice chairman of council at the American University for 6 years. And President Tinubu was responsible for making me chairman of the governing council of the University of Nasarawa State University. And President Tinubu was responsible for making me chairman of the governing council of Veritas University. Is absolute nonsense. So I think that with due respect, I have nothing to prove in Nigeria, absolutely nothing. So small-minded people will create effigies of themselves, but I have neither the time nor the energy to engage in their accusation. We can talk about what our country should be like, but definitely at another level, completely different level. Whether it's at the level of economics and social conditions and so, of course, I'll have my own arguments to make. But to say that, Bishop Kuka is no longer speaking out, I don't know what people mean by that. Whether I should, every time I speak, I should call the world to hear what I'm saying. The resonance and the tone of my speeches has definitely changed because things have changed. So I don't know how else, but I believe that quite a lot of things have changed. In which direction, I don't know, but there cannot be one single linear way in which things change. So like somebody said, it's only a tree that stands in one place, whether you're cutting it down or whatever, it doesn't move. So if anybody would think that I will hold the same view under this government or any other government, something must be wrong. Those who follow me will I've had my own battle with government. I've had my own quarrels, but you don't do this because you just want to pick a fight.
All right. You have challenged the narrative of religious persecution in Nigeria, suggesting it is more about elites' competition for resources, or you were reported to have denied Christian genocide and persecution in Nigeria. It was reported that while delivering a paper at the 46th Supreme Convention of Knights of Semolumba, KSM in Kaduna in November 2025, you reiterated that Christians are not being persecuted in Nigeria, insisting that claims of genocide or targeted attacks lack factual basis and credible data. Many people believe that it was contrary to a view you held under the government of late President Muhammad Buhari. Why did you say what you said? Do you mean that there is no genocide, Christian genocide in Nigeria? Did you diminish or downplay the killings of Christians in Nigeria? How do you respond to Christians who feel your stance downplays their suffering?
Well, I'm sorry, this can be subject for a long conversation, but I have decided that it's not even a conversation I want to entertain because I don't know whether any of my listeners or you or anybody took the trouble to listen to what I had to say. All that people said, and I spoke for almost an hour, I'm speaking to a group of Catholic knights. Now, that was my focus. The focus of my talk was actually on martyrdom and so on. But for anybody to suggest that I deny the persecution of Christians in Nigeria, that person must be mad and they need their head examined. Okay? We can quarrel about names on nomenclature. But if you go back and read what I said in the Vatican on the 21st of October at the launch of the World Report on the Persecution of Christians around the world, to which I was invited to speak on behalf of Africa. Another bishop was invited to speak on behalf of the Middle East. Another bishop was invited to speak on behalf of Asia. And Nigerian bishops were there. Archbishop Fortunatus was there. My good friend Bishop Ona was there. There were quite a lot of other people. I received an ovation. And it was there that I made the point very eloquently and very clearly that, look, by whatever name, whether we're talking about genocide, whether we're talking about persecution of Christians, whatever may be the motive of these killings, they needed to end. And we shouldn't become hostages to language. But I realized that, this conversation has taken a different turn, and I'm not prepared to continue with it because I know it has become a combustible amalgam of all kinds of interests and so on. But happily, and I will end here, the point to make, why I'm happy with my position is that Pope Leo has said, basically, giving us the pathway, namely to focus on our common humanity. Cardinal Parolin, who spoke at the same platform, came to the same conclusion. So I'm happy, if you read the statement issued by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria, we are basically on the same page. So, and all we've had to do is to challenge the narrow narratives of those who want to see only a single story. And my argument, and everybody, and the central argument is, and this is so, I've been on this line for more than 20 years, we should stop categorizing the tragedy of Nigeria by denominations. And that has been my argument. It was my argument yesterday, it's my argument today, it will be my argument tomorrow. All of us are created in the image and likeness of God. I'm a student of politics, and I can tell you that on this subject, I don't know who has written more than I have written. This was the subject of my PhD thesis. If people want us to have a conversation, we can have a conversation. But I will not do a conversation of one-liners and people who felt that their comfort zones have been challenged. Whether, if you call it genocide, wherever it is happening, everybody is free to name what the headache that is worrying them. Okay, but my argument has been, I live in Sokoto. The person living in Benue, the person living in Plateau, the person living in Yobe, all of us have different experiences and manifestations. But the critical thing is not that how we are dying, but that we are dying. So if you call your situation genocide because they are looking for you because you are a Christian. In my own case, my own genocide is different, but it is that nobody is looking for me in Sokoto simply because I'm a Christian. And my argument has always been consistently that we are having our own problems here. Whether we can magnify and scale them up to be a genocide, I don't know. But I'm saying my point of view, which is the point of view from where I stand, is that I am having a relationship that has a lot of problems. But many of those problems are largely administrative issues, for example, about whether Christians what rights do I have as a Christian? And I'm not talking here just of myself. I'm talking about the cost of being a Christian in a place like Sokoto and most parts of predominantly northern Nigeria. Now, there are a lot of structural deformities that need to be rectified, okay? But I haven't, except the case of Deborah, we haven't had cases of that they went, of course, something after the killing of Deborah, we know the experience we had in Sokoto, but these are isolated issues. And the point I'm making is that I raised that issue which was the substance of my conversation with the Knights in Sokoto, that we are over 100 million Christians in Nigeria, for crying out loud. We literally run the Nigerian economy, if we use the word Christians loosely. Over 90% of the Nigerian economy is in the hands of, use the word Christians, all right? We constitute the most educated segment of this Nigerian society. And my question, then as now, is if we held together, we will not be having this problem. We will not be talking about persecution. And we run the risk of imbibing the culture of victimhood. That is that because what does all this mean? I give you a simple example. Look at what happened in what do you call that, in Auchi, which was that a vehicle was going, whether to Auchi or wherever, people were found in the vehicle to be armed. And people who have been victims of atrocities, decided to react. They took the law into their hand. They killed people, and the people were identified to be from Kano. It was an ugly scar on the face of Nigeria, just like millions of other scars. But see what happened. The governor of Edo State decided to get into a jet and fly to Kano. To go and do what? To go and console and condole with the people of Kano. Now, I don't know how much money he gave, but he must have parted with quite a good amount of money to pacify and placate the families. We've been killed across northern Nigeria. How many governors or anybody, for example, has taken the trouble? And this was the point I was confronting the Niles with. I said, we are dying alone. We are burying our dead alone. I've paid money to kidnappers that I don't have. Yet, all of you who are sitting here, how many of you picked up your phone to say, Bishop Kuka, we heard what is happening, how can we help? And for me, that is perhaps even a persecution with my own people at another level. So my argument has been, let's not outsource our obligation, because Christian solidarity demands that we laugh together, we cry together. And so for me, it's more a question of, let us not make this persecution thing look like an excuse for us, because we are more than that. We are not Christians in Syria. We are not Christians in Sudan. We're not Christian minorities, that are being chased left, right, and center. Okay, my argument is that we literally own and hold this country together. So it's a pity if, due to our own whatever reasons they may be, we are allowing Christian minorities to support. All the people who are making this noise, line them up and ask them whether any of them have ever been to Benue, whether they've been to Plateau, whether they've been to where these dead bodies are, whether they've helped any communities in burial. Ask them. So how does it happen that we're all just excited and we're crying persecution when we lack the blood of solidarity? Because imagine, and I told the Knights, if 50 of you came to Sokoto, or if a governor from the south flew to Sokoto to celebrate mass with us in the cathedral, and the world can see that we are not alone, those doing this to us will have a second thought. So that has been the thrust of my argument. For me, it's not about wearing medals of honor. Genocide suddenly has become, what does genocide really mean in the final analysis? For me, I'm still saying that Christians need to sit up. Christians need to do much more than we are doing so far in terms of the problem that face us as a community.
You advocated against labeling Nigeria as a country of particular concern by the U.S. President Donald Trump. Why did you advocate against the move by the Trump administration?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very good question. But please, let me take you back a little bit. And this is something that few people have heard about or know about. The first designation of Nigeria as a country of concern in 2011, I was largely responsible because I was the one that Washington reached out to. And I shared the draft of the statement with the Catholic Bishops' Conference. All the bishops read it and accepted the document. I shared it with the president of CAN. He read it. He was happy with the document. We sent the document back to Washington. Nigeria was duly designated as a country of concern under President Trump. Nothing happened until Trump left. All right? Joe Biden came in as president and took Nigeria off the list. Now, when Trump comes and talks about designating Nigeria as a country of concern, I'm not enthusiastic, at least as at that point, because if it happened and nothing happened, why would I be enthusiastic about designating Nigeria as a country of concern? Now, had Trump said, if we designate Nigeria a country of concern, 1, 2, 3 are the things that that are going to happen. Of course, I'll be all for it. And right now that I have seen where his hand is going, it will be difficult for anybody to say he doesn't support this, this effort. But if the first designation amounted to nothing, my view then was that it will still not amount to anything. And the second point is that at this point, we have already begun to make progress. Let me put it that way. Don't forget that the Muslim ticket thing caused a lot of consternation and anxiety among the Christian community in Nigeria. But my position then was, this is not something we can stop. Again, it's an expression of how we as Christians have not been able to organize ourselves. But even more importantly, I had known President Tinubu for quite some time. I've known Shetima for quite some time. And I felt that, in my view, they were not the kind of Muslims that should make me have sleepless nights about the prospects of their presidency. I don't think I've been proven wrong. And I give you just 2 or 3 examples. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria, we've sat down with the president. We've articulated our areas of concern and anxiety. And the president received us very warmly and made us understand his doors are always open. 2, the Pope dies, Pope Francis, God rest his soul. And a joint president of 2 Muslims who are president and vice president of Nigeria see the wisdom in sending a delegation to go on a condolence visit. I was part of that delegation. A new pope is elected, a president made up of a Muslim and another Muslim vice president. The president sees the need to physically go to the Vatican. I was part of that delegation. I don't know how else you can spell goodwill. So I'm saying the time now calls for greater engagement and greater diplomacy, as opposed to what we experienced. Could you have imagined that under President Buhari, for example, that Buhari would have decided to go to the Vatican for the inauguration of it wouldn't have happened. So I'm saying in effect that the behavior of both the president and the vice president suggests very clearly to me that as far as we Christians are concerned, things need to improve and things can improve, and that all we need to do is to structure our engagement. So that's for me the direction where I was coming from when I talked about don't designate Nigeria a country of concern.
All right, so we have heard everything that Bishop Matthew Kuka had to say about Nigeria's place as a country of particular concern, about what he thinks is actually happening in Nigeria, about how he feels about the labeling of persecution as what is happening to Christians. Of course, we just read out the story, the report from ECWA, that 160 of their members are still held in captivity. And Tony, earlier, before we played that audio, you agreed that what we have is probably not genocide but persecution, because Christians seem to be more of targets than other people. And so I'd like to know the parts that you agree with Kuka on and the parts that you do not. For one, he spoke about solidarity among not just Christians but politicians, and he's also been of the opinion that the present administration has been very supportive of Christians. So what do you agree with, and what do you find lacking in very few points?
Let me begin by putting out some of these caveats. It is important to avoid doing things you will later have to justify. The best defense for one's reputation is to never compromise it. That's the best defense. And then when something like this happens, it speaks volume about it. Anybody's character is more important than the person's circumstance. You don't need to compromise your character for temporary gain and lost trust, and you must earn it back with 1,000 explanations. Preserve it, and you need none. That's what Kuka is doing now. He is explaining. That's what some people will say in local parlance, you go explain tire. So it is important that it takes many goods, just like I've always said, to build a good reputation, but only one bad one to lose it. I think it was a quote by Benjamin Franklin. And I've also advised that we must guard our reputation, because I'm just saying this, guard your reputation with your life. For once it's lost, no amount of explanation can fully restore it.
So you think Kuka is simply explaining?
He's just trying to explain a lot of things, and okay. I pity him. You know why? Look at the last question he was asked. Why were you against the declaration by President Trump that Nigeria is a country of a particular concern? If you have heard the killings and so many things that happen in the country, and look at his excuse that Trump had once done this and nothing came out of it. Biden came and took us out of that list, and Trump came back and put us back. So he wasn't enthusiastic. So for the fact that you were not enthusiastic about it, is it the more reason you should be against it? Let's be honest. That you are not enthusiastic because at first we were there by under President Trump in his first administration. Secondly, we were taken up, or we are taken out of that very place by Biden. Now we are brought back. So what's good, or what's so enthusiastic about it? For the fact you are not enthusiastic about it, is it the more reason as a Catholic bishop of Sokoto Diocese for you to be against that, when you know very well that it is aimed at protecting Christians? Anything that should be done to protect Christians should be what should be your concern, not whether you're enthusiastic or not whether that had been tried in the past but it didn't work. For the fact that things have been tried in the past and it never worked does not also validate that newer trial will make it to fail. It's not a validation. So So I think the call should have been, let it not be like what happened in the past. So the last answer he gave was not satisfactory at all. And the other things he said, well, I can sit down here and agree with him. Like, we've seen Christians being killed and they have been the one bearing their own. Just like what he pointed out that what happened in those states, where those Muslim brothers who were coming back with Dangote trucks, but they were mistaken for terrorists, and they were mobbed, and they were lynched, they were incriminated. What happened? You saw the state governor going down to their respective states to placate the family, the community, and the government of that very state. And he asked, how many times have we heard of, or how many times have we seen or witnessed something like that? The answer is no. The answer is no. So you find out that even likes of Deborah and many people are likes. What happened to them? We saw the case in court, but over time we saw how the case was withdrawn, and nothing came out of that very case as we speak today. So those who mobbed Deborah as a result of her Christian faith and as a result of her statements, as far as that WhatsApp group is concerned, no justice was served. Not just to her, but even her family members. So we have seen these things from time to time. It's not about trying to prevaricate, or because I'm a Christian or because I'm not a Christian. It is far from it. The issue is we are saying things the way they are. We've seen many of these Christians that were killed in Plateau and Benue states. How many? Because now one would say it happened in those states. Those people invaded the state and did it. So nobody can account for where these people, where they are from, the states they are from. Nobody can account for that. But was there any time the northern governors on their own said, let's go and pay visits? There were those that went and then commiserated with the government and the people of that very state on their own. But was there any time they came together as a force and said, we must do this? And it's not about doing that, because for me, these things are afterthought. They are medicine after the end. We are talking about how to stop this from continuing, how to stop it from going on. It is going on from time to time. And before we listened to that very audio, and I was basically saying that we have not been able to deploy technologies to fish out these perpetrators as against paying ransom to them that will enable them to come back more fiercely. That's the truth. That's the honest truth. And nobody's talking about that, because I also agree with him when he said that there are a lot of things Mr. President has done in the area of administration, like how he entrusted some Christian personnel or military personnel to take care of this. Some of these things are like even the appointment of Christian Musa Christopher. But during the time of Buhari, everything was entrusted in the hands of northern Muslims. So how would you expect them to protect the Christians? So he said that for the fact that Mr. President has made a shift by ensuring a balance in this equation, that is something that he will agree that has changed. And I also agree with him that has changed. But has that stopped the...
Has that solved the problem?
The problem. Has it stopped the whole thing going on? It has not. It has not.
We need to attend to a commercial. And once we come back, we take a look at Anambra State. The fire is not yet out. There was a meeting yesterday. We'll read out the communique that was released after that meeting in just a bit. Keep it locked.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Measles and rubella are deadly diseases. They spread fast, can cause blindness, brain damage, miscarriage, and sometimes death.
Every day, Nigerian children are at risk. But there is good news. The Saints can protect your child. The Anambra State government will conduct a mass vaccination campaign for children 0 to 14 years from 4th to 15th February 2026 to protect children across the state from deadly diseases. Take your child 9 months to 14 years for the measles rubella vaccine today. Complete all routine immunization doses from birth. After the campaign, routine vaccination continues in all health facilities. Vaccines are safe, effective, and paid for by the government. Don't wait. Visit your nearest health facility or vaccination site. Leave no child behind. This message is brought to you by the Anambra State government and partners.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
And so after the meeting yesterday, we've understood that the government of Anambra State, particularly the governor, has promised traders of improved security and better security going forward, especially on Mondays. Also, after the meeting yesterday, another notice of a crucial meeting was sent out, and this one is supposed to include this was for yesterday. We also understand that another meeting has been scheduled to hold today, right? This one is supposed to include main market line chairmen and leaders of the market, precisely main market precisely for today. But yesterday, different markets came together and they have agreed with the governor. But then we look forward to implementation, because Tony, over time, we see agreements being made, implementation being a very big problem. But let's look at what is expected going forward.
We expect to see difference. We expect to see change in everything, not just the markets opening on Mondays, but in our mentality, in our thoughts. And just like I said during my intro, I said I cannot, as a person, be subjected to the rule of mobocracy, the rule of criminals, touts that will tell us what to do and what not to do. The question is, some of us who, by the grace of God, have seen the walls of the university, have conducted research, have done extensive works on conflict areas. What becomes of us? And I've said, just like the governor said yesterday, he said, tell me anywhere in the world where children are prevented from going to school, hospitals are shut down, markets are shut down on weekly basis because one of their sons is detained. Tell me anywhere in the world. He asked these people this question just because you must learn from history. You must learn from antecedents.
So, Johnny,
tell me anywhere in the world. Remember yesterday when I was parting, I did say something. Our own case, our own scenario was not worse compared to South Africans during the apartheid system. And I said it yesterday. During the apartheid system, not just that they were intimidated, harassed, everything they have taken over from them by the white racist government, they were also discriminated. They can't enter the same supermarket with the white.
They didn't enter the same basket. They barely even wore the same clothes.
Everything about them was worse. But what did they do? One of their own, you can liken one of their own, Nelson Mandela, and members of ANC that rose up to speak against injustice and even demanded for their own new state. He was taken up. They never organized sit at home every Monday. Go and read history. They never. When this sit at home started, I said, it is not the solution. I said it. And have I not been vindicated?
Speaking
for 5 years, I have been vindicated. When I have, some people will say, you've been bought over, you've been this, you've been this. Go and check my records. Since 2017, I have been constant. So what is the buying over that? Say what I've been saying in 2017, I have continued to say it. Is it because administrations have changed hand? You say you've been bought over? If anybody who knows me, and I said it is not the best way to go. In fact, one of the clearest way to go is our brothers outside the country. Had it been that on every Monday they go to most of these foreign embassies, do protests, record their grievances on that, it will even make more noise.
Okay.
It will even make more noise, attract the sympathy of international community as against what we are doing here. We are treating ourselves on the foot. So it's important we educate the people and tell the people the truth.
A couple of questions have risen from this move to open markets, especially main market on Mondays. And some persons have questioned the safety overall of people who would now come to do business in Onitsha, because they are not, most of them come from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and the Southeast generally. Is there some sort of collaborative effort to make sure that people coming from other parts of the Southeast can come to Anambra peacefully without any breakdown of law and order? We've seen in the past where you have these attacks happening in different parts of the country. What is the guarantee, in different parts of the region, what is the guarantee that there is going to be maybe tripled security to make sure that these elements do not operate? Now, this is outside of the Onitsha metropolis. I mean, people now coming to the town and leaving to ensure normalcy. What is the guarantee?
Now, there is this article I wrote, Chisom, and then that article I titled it "Interrupting the Lie of Choice. Reaccepting law over criminally enforced Monday sit at home in Anambra State." It's a very long piece. I explained everything in that article.
I would like you to briefly talk about the safety of the people.
Yes, and then the question you asked me, I think in almost the last paragraph of the article, there was something I did say in response to your question. So I did say that some of these bandits or these criminals, they have lost their camps, they have lost their spaces, but now many of them are on the run.
Some of them are still making videos, making threats.
That is what I'm telling you. Most of these videos you see, they are AI generated. And we can do this I saw some of these videos, I laughed over these videos. They are AI generated, and most times we fact check some of these things. The idea of using AI to make some of these threats is to instill fear in people. They have lost their camps. Their camps have been overrun. I would say 5% to 90% of their camps have been overtaken. Their spaces have been overtaken. So the only thing left for them is to use fear through AI generated videos to instill in people and say whatever they want to say. Since they are enablers, fake DBS, since they are enablers, the fake video, DBS, we are taking over. Many of them, we are on the run. Some ran to Ghana, some ran to Cameroon, some ran to Benin Republic. They left their shrines. They all ran away. So they have left all these things, and somebody is making an echo from wilderness that we are going to still do this and do that. From where? See, let's be real. What I'm saying in essence is this, just in conclusion before you ask a question, in essence that they are using might, or what people can call meat. They are using might, fear, to instigate that there would be. But the honest truth is that many of them, you tell the story, many of them are no more in their camps. Many of them have been neutralized. Many of them have been eliminated, killed. Some ran away. That's the truth. So the need for markets to open, they have no anything they can hold on to. But what the governor said, I'm going to reject the security, the 150 men, that we are going to ensure that they are well placed. And for those coming into Anambra State, once they come from Bridgehead, that's the major route they come from. For those who are coming outside the southeast, and for those coming from southeast, we know from Aba, from Enugu, from Ebonyi State, we know the routes. So the point remains that there is this plan to amplify the security. Look at yesterday, we were on this program. There was a call. What's the name of that very market? I can't remember.
I think it's a fruit market somewhere.
Obaru. And they said they usually open on Monday. We listen to so many of them, making comments. And the question was asked, do you people have security? They say operation Udogachi operates there. And they have not been intimidated. They have not been overrun. Nobody has done anything. Because these people, their camps have been busted. Everything about them, they don't have spaces to operate. They are on the run. So you cannot use the AI generated videos to instigate fear just to settle with sit at home. For me, it is criminally economic sabotage. That's what we have. And Anambra State cannot, my home state in the west of Chinua Achebe, cannot be run and dictated by renegades who boats their whatever in the way they do.
Tony, let me dwell on the outcome of the meeting that the governor had with market leadership yesterday, and also I also bring in the slant of it appears that we are beginning to see balkanization among the traders, because this very morning on Punch newspaper you will see a report there where Ebonyi traders are trying to remove themselves from this whole thing about not resuming market on Mondays. We're going to bring in that very one, or any planned protest for the market. But let's look at that meeting that happened yesterday. Of course, it happened in Oka, and the market. But that international conference center, it was a big activity, because it was Mamma crowd that showed up for that very meeting. At the end of the day, some resolutions were reached. One is that the governor promised that he's going to ensure increased security at the marketplaces on Mondays. So by Monday, we're going to look at to see whether we are going to see that increased security, not just in the market, but also in some strategic places, the way he promised. Then he also now said that anyone who misses to open his shop on Monday should count that very shop forfeited. People were talking about this very one, because government said they're going to, descend on those persons and revoke their shop. Then there was also another resolution, which is where the governor gave instruction to market lines, that they have to provide a register which attendance is going to be taken, and anybody who defaults will have his or herself to be blamed, because it's going to be recorded. Then he also gave instruction to mayors of local government, two local government areas like Onitsha North and Onitsha South, that they should both supervise this very exercise every Monday. They should ensure that they stick to plan. Then the governor also, mentioned his plan to change the face of the market. I mean, the face of main market, where, from what we gathered, the governor gave two options. One is this: to level. Let me use this word: to level the entire main market. I mean, pull down all the structures and then erect a new modern market. Or the trader should go back, begin business on Monday, and then support him for him to modernize the market, whereby some illegal structures are going to be pulled down, so that they can create space for vehicles to be parked within that very market area, and a couple of other things, because he said he's going to widen, Young Street to accommodate a park. And I think this is like the summary of what happened there yesterday. But I'm looking at where conversations are going now. Some people are asking, what is the tenability of all these outcomes from this very meeting? That's number one. The number two is that people are saying that it appears as if the conversation or the issue is now shifting from trying to make the traders to resume trading on Mondays to, a show of power. Government trying to tell the people that every power rests in our hands. If you like it this very way or that very way, any way you want it, we are ready. So how do you respond to this?
I think you raised quite a lot of things. And let me begin by the Ebonyi State. You just briefly glossed over it. The Ebonyi State people, they have dissociated themselves from any form of protest, and they have all pledged that they will be coming out on Monday for market. That's Ebonyi State.
Yes, indigenous.
In
Anambra State.
In Anambra, as they do in their home state, because there is no such in their home state, but they are residents in Anambra State. So they say that they will work with the government for the good of all. That's for Ebonyi State indigenous. Ebonyi State indigenous in Anambra State. That aside, and probably we hope that other indigenous like Abia State indigenous in Anambra State, Imo indigenous in Anambra State, and Enugu indigenous in Anambra State, probably they will copy what Ebonyi indigenous have done. That is one. And then secondly, you pointed out the outcomes of governor meeting with these people, and it was what we called hair and haw deliberation. Everybody was allowed to talk. I was in Oka yesterday. Everybody was allowed to talk, and we saw market leaders